Hong Kong has escaped major damage and casualties after the most powerful storm to hit us this year brought the city to a standstill for 12 hours.
Severe Typhoon Utor caused commuter chaos and hundreds of flight disruptions and triggered a dramatic high seas rescue. There was a mad rush to get to work after the year's first typhoon warning signal number 8 was replaced by a number 3. Many who had been expecting to have a day off found themselves caught up in the surge of commuters looking for public transport as severe typhoon Utor moved further away. Transport operators soon resumed normal services, but they struggled to deal with the backlog of passengers. The city came to a standstill as the number 8 signal was issued overnight and remained in force for 12 hours. Classes at schools across the city were cancelled, while businesses and government offices were closed. The Hong Kong stock market was also forced to close for the day. After leaving a trail of death and destruction in the Philippines, Utor brought gale force winds and dumped heavy rain across the city. There were dozens of reports of fallen trees and branches blocking roads. The storm caused part of the scaffolding on this building in Happy Valley to peel away. There were also several complaints made about minor flooding to drainage authorities, although no landslides were reported. At least 9 people required medical attention at hospital emergency wards. About 80 kilometres from Hong Kong, there was drama on the high seas. The government flying service was called in when rough seas with waves up to 15 metres tall capsized a Hong Kong cargo ship this morning. It took emergency personnel 2 hours to rescue 19 crew members from the Trans-Summer with the help of 2 helicopters, while 2 other crew members were rescued by mainland authorities. One of the ship's winchmen suffered a head wound, but no one was seriously injured. Closer to shore and far away from the drama, thrill-seeking surfers were enjoying the big waves in Sheko. The observatory expects more wet weather in the coming days.
Local weather are expected to be cloudy with squally showers. And the strong wind signal number 3 is expected to remain in force for a period of time overnight. So members of the public should stay on the alert.
On the whole, Hong Kong got away relatively unscathed, although it lost a day because of the storm. Transport services started returning to normal this afternoon following the passage of the typhoon.
Thousands of travellers stranded at the airport overnight started boarding flights after the number 8 signal went down. ATV's Bo Lang reports.
Hours of frustration for thousands of travellers stranded overnight at the airport started coming to an end as flights slowly resumed this afternoon. Long queues began forming in front of the check-in counters at Chek Lap Kok after the number 8 signal was replaced by the number 3 at 1:40 p.m. But many passengers complained about the arrangements, saying they were not kept updated about the status of their flights. Others were unhappy with having to wait longer because of the flight backlog. The airport authority said up to 5 p.m, 107 flights were cancelled and 400 delayed because of severe Typhoon Utor. Passengers caught up in the chaos said they had no choice but to sit it out.
They keep delaying by every hour we go there to check, and then they just keep delaying, so we just have to wait.
I lost my connection to Seoul, so I had to book another flight with another company.
They said I'm probably going to have to sleep in Shanghai tonight because I'll probably miss the last flight to Seoul from Shanghai.
Ferry services to Macau and the mainland were suspended when the number 8 signal was up. More than 200 mainland tourists heading to Macau were stranded overnight at the China ferry terminal in Tsim Sha Tsui this morning. Some passed the time playing cards. Others decided to sleep. Some tour groups arrived at the terminal early this morning, only to find out that they couldn't leave until the storm eased. Many tourists were forced to change their plans at the last minute. We'll just have to go home because we can't get to Macau, this mainlander said. This tourist said she'd stay in Hong Kong for a few more days instead of heading to Macau. Services resumed at 3 p.m. and those who had decided to wait it out began boarding the ferries. Buses began operating normally at around 2 p.m, while ferry services across the harbour and to the outlying islands also resumed after the number 8 signal was withdrawn. Berlin, ATV News.
Utor was downgraded to a typhoon after making landfall in western Guangdong at around 4 p.m. and is expected to weaken as it moves further inland.
The backlash from Utor was felt in Macau, where transport services suspended, handing a windfall to some taxi drivers in the gambling hub. ATV's Emily Sue reports.
Public transport services in Macau, except for some taxis, were suspended during the 11 hours the number 8 signal was enforced in the gambling center. All 3 bridges between Macau Peninsula and Taipa Island were also closed, although the lower deck of the Saipan Bridge was kept open. The lack of transport led to long queues of mainland tourists forming outside Border Gate, the main checkpoint between Macau and Zhuhai. Some got into arguments for jumping the queue. Some taxi drivers took the chance to make instant profits by filling their 4 passenger cabs to capacity. Helpers lured customers to the taxis, charging each person $125, enabling the drivers to collect $500 for a trip that normally costs $80. For his troubles, this man earned $100 for bringing people to a taxi. Little damage was caused by the storm, but a wall collapsed inside Senado Square. Macau's airport operated almost normally, with only a few flights delayed. But over 100 passengers were stranded at the Outer Harbor Ferry Terminal before services resumed when the number 8 signal was lowered at 3:30 p.m.